The air in the office had become thick with the false cheer of December, a dangerous sweetness that masked the rot beneath. For 2 years, I had worn the disguise of a dedicated, ambitious, but ultimately ordinary junior analyst at Sterling & Pierce. They called me Amy, and they saw a hungry orphan working her way up from nothing. They saw someone easily crushed. They saw a victim in waiting. And for 2 years, I let them. Because true power is only wielded effectively when the enemy believes you have none. My target was Victor Hayes, the regional director, a man whose ambition was as oversized as his ego. He had been my father's protege, a fact I kept fiercely guarded, until he wasn't. Victor had used his position of trust to systematically bleed the company dry, siphoning funds and accepting massive bribes from competitors, all while blaming the resulting shortfalls on the very employees he was meant to champion. My father, the majority shareholder and founder, was in forced medical retirement, believing Victor was keeping his legacy alive. I was there to confirm the devastating truth and, more importantly, to execute the final, terminal correction. The stage for the grand humiliation was set, the Sterling & Pierce Annual Holiday Summit, scheduled for the 23rd of December. This was not a casual office party. It was a high-stakes, all-hands-on-deck meeting where the year's financial results were presented to the board of directors and the international team, followed by a dinner. It was Victor's crowning moment of the year, his chance to gloss over the corruption and paint himself as the savior of the quarter. For me, it was the only stage large enough for the scale of my vengeance. The humiliations were relentless, a slow, methodical chipping away at my resolve that only fueled the fire. Victor thrived on public cruelty. Just last week, during a routine team meeting, he had pointedly passed me over for a promotion I had earned twice over, giving it instead to his obsequious lackey, Mark. "Amy," he had sneered, his voice booming across the polished mahogany table. "We need someone with true vision and leadership for this role, not someone who just follows instructions. You're simply not built for the C-suite. Stick to the spreadsheets, dear." The entire room had laughed, a wave of sycophantic, nervous chuckles. I had simply lowered my gaze, the sting of the insult a familiar, sharp sensation, and nodded my acceptance. But beneath the surface of the meek analyst, the true Amelia Sterling was calculating the interest on every single slight. The biggest sting came when Victor publicly sabotaged my attempt to secure a major international contract. I had spent 6 months analyzing the data, identifying a $50 million opportunity with the Asian market. Victor intercepted my proposal presentation. He stripped my name from the cover and delivered it himself, poorly, confusing the currency exchange rates and misstating the ROI projections. The contract fell through. When I confronted him privately, hoping to gauge the extent of his malice, he leaned in, his breath smelling of expensive scotch, and whispered, "You think you're smart, don't you? You think hard work matters. Let me tell you a secret, Amy. This world is about power, and you have none. Now, clean up this coffee spill, and remember who signs your pathetic little paycheck." That night, alone in my apartment, which was not in fact a cramped rental, but a strategically located high-security condo, I finalized the blueprint. The core of my plan revolved around the Purity Project, a secret internal audit initiated by my father years ago to expose endemic fraud. Victor had supposedly shut it down, archiving the data on a server he believed was impenetrable. He was wrong. Utilizing the specialized skills I had honed during my time at an elite cybersecurity firm, a career he knew nothing about, I had been painstakingly retrieving and decrypting every fragment of Victor's illicit transactions. The records were pristine. Dates, amounts, bank wire details, and, most damningly, personalized holiday greeting cards from the companies bribing him, acknowledging the generous favor of the contract. The seasonal timing of the crimes was sickeningly perfect. My greatest weapon, however, was my identity. Amelia Sterling. The name meant everything in this corporation, but I had scrubbed every trace of it from my current profile, adopting the simplified, bland moniker of Amy Stone. Victor had no idea he had been harassing the daughter of the man who held his entire life in his hands. He was about to deliver a Christmas gift of humiliation to a woman who owned the ribbon on his coffin. The final piece of the puzzle was the delivery method. The holiday summit was the perfect venue. Hundreds of employees, key board members flying in from New York, and, most importantly, the live satellite feed broadcasting Victor's presentation globally to all regional offices. It guaranteed maximum reach and permanent, non-rebuttable public record. The day of the meeting, December 23rd, dawned clear and bitterly cold. I dressed not in the usual muted office attire, but in a simple, high-collared black dress, blending into the background like a shadow. Victor, meanwhile, was the picture of puffed-up holiday success. A custom-tailored suit, a red silk tie, and a perpetual smirk plastered on his face. He caught my eye across the bustling lobby as I was setting up the AV equipment, my assigned demeaning task for the day. He winked, a gesture of casual dominance that was meant to remind me of my place. "Amy, check the connections one more time," he ordered, his voice dripping with condescension. "I can't have your usual incompetence messing up my presentation." I looked him straight in the eye, a cold, calculating look that he misinterpreted as fear. "The connections are solid, Victor," I replied, my voice level. "Everything is ready for your performance." He chuckled, oblivious to the double meaning. He didn't realize the script had already been flipped. He was the actor, but I was the director, the screenwriter, and the judge, jury, and executioner. The clock ticked toward 4 p.m. The lights dimmed, the presentation began, and the countdown to his catastrophic downfall was finally at 0. Victor took the stage with the practiced swagger of a man who believed himself untouchable. The huge, high-definition screen behind him glowed with a festive, professionally designed slide. Sterling and Peers, a year of exceptional growth and strategic leadership. The hypocrisy was suffocating. He began his address, a smooth, self-congratulatory monologue detailing how his bold, decisive actions had shielded the company from global market instability. He spoke of sacrifice and vision, words that tasted like ash to anyone who knew the truth. My role was simple but critical. I sat at the technical console, managing the projector, the microphones, and the slide progression. It was the perfect vantage point, low profile, high control. As Victor launched into his prepared statistics, praising his team, while conveniently forgetting to mention any of the actual engineers who did the real work, I felt the familiar, slow burn of injustice. I focused on the screen, on the numbers he was twisting, and allowed the tension to coil tight within me. The board members were seated in the front row, nodding along, their faces a mixture of relief and admiration for the man who appeared to have delivered another stellar year. The presentation hit its stride when Victor started discussing the successful securing of the two biggest contracts of the year. The first, Project Midas, a massive infrastructure deal, and the second, the Eastern European Logistics Agreement. He paused for dramatic effect, spreading his arms wide, embracing the applause that swelled around the room. "These achievements," he proclaimed, his voice thick with affected sincerity, were the direct result of sheer hard work and navigating complex ethical landscapes with unwavering integrity. This was the cue for the next phase of his humiliation, the escalation that would prime the audience for the ultimate reversal. As he clicked to the next slide, a routine financial breakdown, I triggered the pre-programmed secondary display I had been working on for weeks. The large screen behind Victor did not change. It displayed the expected financial metrics, but the smaller, less noticed monitors positioned strategically around the room, those typically used for overflow audience viewing and remote team feeds, suddenly displayed an identical slide with a horrifying yet subtly placed addition. Victor, fully immersed in his own performance, was oblivious. He gestured confidently at the main screen. As you can see, our margins for Project Midas were slightly lower than projected, a consequence of unforeseen operational costs. Standard business risk, nothing more. But the secondary monitors told a different story. In a small, high-contrast corner of the financial slide, a simple, red-bordered text box flashed onto the screen, visible only to those looking closely. Actual Midas margin, plundered 18.5%. Reported margin, plun 12.0%. Missing, 6.5%. Designated operational expense, via VH. Account, 3040. A ripple of confusion, then alarm started to spread through the audience. It was slow, subtle. A board member leaned forward, squinting at a nearby monitor. A senior VP from the New York office pulled out his phone, covertly snapping a photo of the discrepancy. Victor, hearing the sudden drop in applause, faltered slightly, but his ego immediately rationalized it. He thought they were simply taking notes. The hum of unease grew louder during the Eastern European logistics section. Again, he touted the success while minimizing the profit, attributing the delta to global logistical complexities. Again, I pushed the trigger. The secondary screens updated with the second, more damning visual note. Eastern Europe contract, bonus, $750,000 payout to V. Hayes. Coded as consulting fee from subcontractor Alpha. This time, the disruption was undeniable. Whispers erupted. Victor stopped talking. His practiced smile froze, a plastic mask of cheer dissolving into stark confusion. He glanced around the room, his eyes darting wildly. "Is there a technical issue, Amy?" he snapped, turning toward my station, his voice sharp with sudden paranoia. "Did you fail to check the feeds?" "Everything on the main feed is operating exactly as you scheduled, Victor," I replied calmly, my voice amplified just enough by my own lapel mic. I did not look at him. My focus remained on the control panel, playing the role of the diligent, stressed technician. This small exchange pulled the focus directly to me for a moment, making me appear the convenient scapegoat, exactly where he wanted me. The audience's sympathy briefly swung to the poor junior analyst being blamed. Victor dismissed me with a furious wave of his hand. He tried to regain control, raising his voice. "Let's move on! This is clearly a glitch on the regional monitors. We must focus on the big picture." He tried to rush to the next slide, but the damage was done. The initial seed of doubt, the clear evidence of financial manipulation, had taken root. The room was no longer filled with festive appreciation, but with cold, hard suspicion. The mounting tension was delicious. Victor was visibly sweating now, his tailored suit suddenly too tight. He was trapped in the glare of the spotlight, his own presentation becoming the instrument of his exposure. He was losing his narrative, and watching him scramble to cling to his power was the first true taste of triumph. The audience wasn't laughing at me anymore. They were scrutinizing him. The Christmas summit had become a very hostile courtroom, and Victor had just entered his plea of guilt by panicked denial. I knew exactly how to make the panic peak. As Victor desperately attempted to steer the presentation back to a bland, safe topic, the company's charitable donations, I knew the time for subtlety was over. The stage was set for the final, brutal act of revelation. The shattering moment when the junior analyst would finally shed the skin of Amy Stone and reveal the power of Amelia Sterling. The public humiliation had been delivered, but the absolute inversion of power was still to come. I gripped the small encrypted USB drive hidden in my palm, the key to unlocking the totality of his crime, waiting for the perfect, irreversible moment in Block 3. Victor, desperate to end the meeting before the rumors fully materialized, skipped 20 slides and jumped directly to the conclusion. The traditional segment where he would announce the massive end-of-year bonuses, cementing his image as the benevolent leader. "And now," he declared, forcing a wide, strained smile, to recognize your incredible efforts during this challenging year. Sterling and Pierce is proud to announce the largest Christmas bonus pool in our history. As the sound technician, I was expected to play a triumphant fanfare. Instead, I pressed the button that muted all microphones, including Victor's, and simultaneously took control of the main projector system. A moment of chilling silence fell over the massive room. Victor's mouth was still moving, announcing figures and celebrating his own generosity. But no sound came out. The effect was immediate and disturbing. A powerful man suddenly silenced, reduced to a pantomime of authority. He whirled around, crimson flooding his face, pointing a furious finger at me. "Amy, what the hell is this? Fix it now!" He was shouting, but only the first 2 rows could hear his raw panic. I stood up, slowly, deliberately. I walked out from behind the console and stepped into the direct path of the spotlight that had been illuminating Victor. I was wearing the simple black dress, but now I stood with an authority that completely contradicted the meek analyst he thought he knew. The hushed crowd, recognizing the shift in power dynamic, turned their full attention to me. The board members leaned forward, their faces etched with confusion and dawning horror. "There is no technical fault, Victor," I said, my voice projecting clearly and calmly across the silent room, amplified by the mic I still wore. "The silence you are experiencing is the beginning of the inevitable. It's time for the Christmas gifts to be fully unwrapped." Victor's eyes, wide and terrified, flickered between me and the main screen. He started toward me, intending to physically seize the controls, but he stopped dead as the screen behind him suddenly flashed. The festive backdrop vanished, replaced by a clean, stark black interface. "For 2 years," I continued, my voice unwavering, laced with the steel of long-awaited justice, "you have leveraged your position to humiliate and suppress those who threaten your corruption. You thought I was poor, a nobody, a simple analyst named Amy Stone." I paused, letting the name hang in the air, then dropped the bomb that shattered his reality. My name is Amelia Sterling, and, as the daughter of the company's founder and its majority shareholder, I have been conducting a full, independent audit of your tenure. A gasp ripped through the room. Victor swayed, the blood draining from his face, leaving him a sickly, ashen gray. He looked like a man who had seen a ghost, the ghost of the power he was about to lose. The main screen snapped to life, displaying a file folder titled Project Purity, Victor Hayes Illicit Transactions, 2023-2025. You used the Holiday Summit to announce fictional successes and inflate your bonuses, I stated, stepping closer to the massive screen. But you forgot that Christmas is a season of giving, and today I am giving the board the truth. I clicked open the first file. It was a high-resolution scan of a bank transfer receipt, a $2 million payment from subcontractor Alpha, dated December 22nd last year. Below the receipt, I displayed the truly damning evidence, an image of a handwritten, personalized Christmas card Victor had received from the CEO of Alpha, thanking him for ensuring our timely victory over the Sterling and Pierce bid. I presented the evidence systematically. The bribes taken to sabotage Project Midas, detailed emails instructing the deliberate miscalculation of currency rates to pocket the difference, and proof that Victor had used company funds, masked as client entertainment, to purchase a luxury villa in the Caribbean, a deed I displayed on the screen, dated January the 1st, a New Year's Day purchase. The room was silent, save for the rapid clicking of cameras from the journalists Victor had invited to cover his success. His public humiliation was total. Every lie he had constructed over the past 2 years was laid bare in unforgiving detail. Victor finally broke. He dropped his head, his shoulders collapsing. The facade of the powerful regional director vanished, replaced by a desperate, ruined man. When he looked up at me, his eyes were wet, shiny with tears of self-pity and absolute defeat. He didn't plead for mercy. He didn't try to defend himself. He just whispered, a broken, barely audible sound that the mic still picked up. "Amelia, I did it for my family. You did it for greed, Victor." I cut him off, my voice ice cold. "You betrayed my father. You bled this company. And you humiliated employees who worked harder in a week than you have in 2 years." I turned to the board members, who were already pulling out their phones, frantically calling legal counsel. This evidence is now in the hands of the board and the federal authorities. Victor Hayes is terminated, effective immediately, for gross fraud and fiduciary misconduct. His company access has already been revoked. The police are waiting outside. I gestured toward the main door. 2 uniformed officers entered the room, moving swiftly toward Victor. The look on his face as the officers approached, the sheer pathetic reversal from triumphant director to weeping criminal, was the culmination of my long, patient wait. The power had inverted completely. The victim had become the judge. As Victor was escorted out, passing through the shocked, silent rows of employees and board members, the screen behind me changed one final time. It displayed the corporate logo, the words, "Leadership transition effective immediately," and my name, Amelia Sterling, interim CEO. My vengeance was complete. The office was quiet, the false Christmas cheer gone, replaced by the profound, cleansing silence of justice finally delivered. The new year would bring a new era,